All right, everybody, welcome to another podcast featuring Be Vital Wellness. I'm your host, Marcia Hawkins, along with Stephanie Nascimento. Boy, I guess it's too early in the morning for me to get your name out. How are you, Stephanie?
I am wonderful this morning. Thank you, Marcia.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so excited. So we did a podcast last week. We're trying to kick off 2026, January 2026, and having it be the year of the horse, right? It's year of the horse, but
Yes.
also the year of taking control of your life through your health. And I could not be happier that I have found you. And now we're partnering on this podcast because I think both of us, at the core of our belief, is there are so many ways for you to be healthy and to have a healthier lifestyle. And I was fascinated by our first podcast when you were talking about the gut health and the weight loss connection. Now, I always knew there was a connection, but I was fascinated at the way you described it. So true to our word, we said we would do a whole podcast on it. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So Stephanie.
Yes.
Just briefly, talk about how many times you come across this and how it can be such a speed bump for people trying to lose weight.
Yes. Thank you. I cannot talk about gut health enough when it comes to weight loss. Overall, overall wellness and how good you feel and metabolize your food. Yes. Weight loss is directly connected to your gut microbiome. And we don't talk about that enough in healthcare or wellness for that matter. We see it all the time in our clinic in Hadley. We have been doing weight loss for 14 years, if this is your first time listening. And it has always been I love what you just said, speed bump in someone's weight loss. So we talk a lot about non-responders. There are some non-responders in diet programs. Any kind of diet program, you might come up against that where you see a friend who loses, their 15 or 50 or 150 pounds that they were looking to lose for their health. And you're sitting there having no results. And often there's something that's blocking that. It's not the diet. It's not that person's willpower. It's what is going on in their gut often. Not always, but very, very often we find that they have some kind of malabsorption or dysbiosis in their gut.
No, that's a good point because it also when you think about it, if your gut health is severely compromised, I would imagine not only with weight loss, but trying to get over the flu, trying to get over the common cold, trying to get over a viral infection. I would imagine it has far-reaching consequences than people even realize. But I don't think people honestly make that neuroassociation that if their gut health is so severely compromised, that it is affecting their ability to lose weight. So I'm so glad that we're talking about this because I know so many people, and I can think of a few right off the top of my head, who have, dieted multiple times throughout their life, have had significant weight loss. But a lot of times it's been, I don't want to use the term crash diet, but they've done some type of fad diet where they have rapidly lost the weight only to turn around and gain it back with interest. And I do believe that being carb conscious is very conducive to weight loss. But I also am not a big proponent of fad diets either because, I know a friend of mine who lost a lot of weight on a low carb diet. And the minute she ate a roll, it was like, boom, her weight loss came right back. She only needed to lose like 20 pounds, but she ended up gaining 25 back. She religiously dieted on a low carb diet. But the minute she started integrating the carbs back in, and I don't, maybe you can confirm or deny this, but a low carb diet in the long run really does not support long-term weight loss. Is that accurate?
Yes, doing anything consistently long term isn't necessarily going to help you to be able to maintain the weight that you have lost or any of your nutrition goals for that matter, because there has to be that variety and that balance of these chemicals in your system. And I speak about it in the way of chemicals because there are these, we are organic molecules, right? Or organic makeup, and all of these different chemicals in our body have this, physiological symphony and command actions to happen on a cellular level. And if we remove one entirely, one whole food group entirely, then and for a long time, that is going to do us a disservice in the end, for sure. However,
Mm.
if it's a short-term thing and you shock the system a little bit and you allow some other physiology dysfunction to repair itself, like let's talk about your, insulin resistance, let's say, by removing some of the high carb items out of your diet, then you allow that to become insulin sensitive again, your cells to become insulin sensitive again, then you're doing that service to your body. Now you have to figure out what's next in maintaining that weight. And that's adding more of the variety back in your diet. But it also is very different if you're having a seeded piece of bread or roll versus a very processed white bread, right? So there's a
Exactly.
lot that goes, yeah. So there's a lot that goes into the what we eat component, even within our macro groups.
Well, that's interesting that you use the word symphony because I use that analogy a lot. So you think of all the different components of a symphony, the horn section, the string section, and if you remove one of those from the symphony, it is not going to have the symphonic sound that you're used to hearing. Much
Right.
like your body, if you remove one of those components, well, it's still operable, but it's not optimal, and that's where I think people get into trouble. The other component to that is, I would imagine, that if you do not fix the underlying reason why you have gained weight, so with the gut health being, I am just really evangelical about that right now because everything starts with our gut health. It's not just about your perceived weight loss, but it's about your overall health in general. So any type of inflammation in your body, any type of itis, arthritis, gastritis, and pancreatitis, any type of itis that you have in your body basically equals inflammation. And I can't imagine, as you pointed out, with severe your gut health being in severe compromise, that you're going to get on that vicious cycle. So maybe going on a fad diet, such as a very extremely low carb diet, might work in the short term, but in the long term, it doesn't necessarily work. So I want to get
Yeah.
back to talking about how people can optimize their gut health and what are some of the things you would recommend for them to be able to, choose a program like what you offer at Be Vital Wellness in Hadley and what that means, to them and how that can optimize their results.
Yes. Well, I think one of the things that we do in at Be Vital is explain to the patient and our clients what it does. Understanding the importance of your microbiome and feeding your gut appropriately for you, which everyone is different, is a really important thing because that is not only what helps you break down your food, but it's going to produce metabolites that affect your insulin sensitivity. It's going to influence how many calories you absorb and extract from your food. So your neighbor, your best friend that's sitting and eating the same meal that you're eating can extract a different amount of calories from that same food than you do based on that microbiome or that community of bacteria in your gut. So understanding that is very important. Understanding what the gut bacteria do and understanding that the diverse, microbiome, what it supports in you. That will definitely motivate the patient. And how do we find out what each individual patient is working with is very important. Number one, which I'll circle back to. And then number two, knowing that you don't want to go to a store and pick up a bunch of probiotics and be throwing different probiotics at it, not understanding what strains you need. And I know that's very complicated. It's complicated for someone to know that and just be guessing at it. So we do have tests that we use to help guide us in what you may need to correct your microbiome.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
Yes.
that's very key. Okay, continue. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's quite all right. I don't want people to be spending a lot of money on probiotics in capsule form or powder form without knowing what they're actually treating, right? Now, with that being said, eating a diverse diet with lots of different fibers for, prebiotic to feed the good bacteria, eating, fermented foods like kombucha and kimchi. And then, you can also drink some of these lovely strains of bacteria like kefir. And, if you like Greek yogurt, that's not only a great source of protein, but also wonderful for your probiotics. But if you want to take that a step further, then I do recommend people getting tested because other things can be going on, like leaky gut, for example, where you have these gaps in your GI system that are leaking out bacteria, and that is also going to reduce the amount of nutrients that you're able to absorb because you're going to be losing some of those. So if that's the root cause of your skin condition or your weight loss issues or your brain fog, we want to tackle that first. So we do rely greatly on GI Map is one of the tests we use, and GI Spotlight through Designs for Health. And we just love using them because we don't feel like we're throwing darts in the dark.
Interesting. What does a test like that look like?
It is a stool test. And this is something that we give our patients. They go home and they do the test on their own. That gets sent into the diagnostic company and they evaluate it, clinicians evaluate it, and then we, as the practitioners, get reports. And then we can sit down with the patients and really go through that so that they have a better understanding of what their microbiome looks like, what their, not just the bacteria in their microbiome, but also byproducts of inflammation. So it does give us a lot of information that we have to sift through, but it is very, very descriptive and really helpful so that we are not, like I said, throwing darts at it.
Interesting. I didn't know we were going to go there this morning, but here we are. But that's fascinating. When you brought up leaky gut, that kind of light bulb went off in my head. What are some of the symptoms that someone would experience if they did have leaky gut?
Well, malabsorption is going to be, the biggest one. Of fatigue. There are unfortunately a myriad of things that go on when someone has leaky gut. And one thing that I want to remember to talk about is that GLP-1s are made in the gut naturally. So if someone is experiencing leaky gut, they're likely not making enough GLP-1 naturally, which is going to,
Interesting.
yeah,
Wow. Okay.
yeah. And that is, because our gut is the, communicates to the brain, there's going to be a lot of dysfunction there. Hormones are not going to be created properly. There's going to be added inflammation. Neurotransmitters aren't going to be properly produced. So there's unfortunately a lot of symptoms that come out of having leaky gut.
The reason why I ask is I'm hoping anybody listening to the podcast will have that light bulb moment where they go, aha, maybe that is what my problem is. Because a lot of times, Stephanie, people will go to the doctor and they'll be symptomatic. And if they go in with things like, fatigue and brain fog and, oh, are you depressed? Here's an antidepressant and out the door you go. And, that just gets them on a vicious cycle right there alone. So I'm hoping people listening to the podcast are going to identify with some of the things that you're talking about, because maybe they're not looking to lose weight, but maybe they're not feeling they're 100% themselves and might be thinking, geez, I never thought of that. Because our food source, and a lot of it is, I would assume, our diet. And once we damage that and we're not able to get a handle on that, I'm assuming that there are a number of things that can crop up besides not being able to lose weight.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Joint pain, headaches. I mean, there are very systemic whole body symptoms that go on. And then you have your digestive symptoms that can happen. And often, you're right, people do not connect that back to, what their gut is doing for them and what it's not doing for them. But it is very exciting because that is something that we can address. However, it takes a little patience, right? It takes a little time to decipher what is going on, and then it takes some time to really treat it. But once that is done and understood, they don't have to be on, let's say, the lifelong SSRI. And I'm not, discrediting
Oh,
SSRIs. I think
absolutely
they're,
not. Yeah.
yes, very important. However, if it's coming from your gut and that's the root cause, and we address that and that can correct how you feel mentally and physically, well, I mean, I think that's pretty exciting.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. I mean, if you have situational issues, definitely, they definitely help. But I think getting at the root cause on every podcast I've ever done has always been identify what the root cause is, fix that, address that, and see where you are after. And hopefully that will, start you on the path to wellness. So it's super, super important. So just in
Yes.
recap, Stephanie, it sounds like anybody listening to this who might be thinking, geez, maybe it is my gut. So you're recommending, look at your diet first. And
Yes.
maybe you're not looking to lose weight. Maybe you're not looking for a GLP-1. Maybe everything is fine, but you are experiencing maybe some GI issues, or perhaps you've got the brain fog. You're feeling fatigued. You got the joint pain. So you're kind of recommending first take a look at your diet, see what you can do, and you gave some phenomenal recommendations. If you want to just recap those for the listening audience, so just in case they didn't hear you the first time, I think that
Yes.
is important.
Absolutely. I'm happy to do that. Yes. So, looking at your diet and making sure that you're getting a variety of macronutrients, you're getting a rainbow in your vegetables and your fruits is very important because those phytochemicals and those phytonutrients are absolutely crucial for your gut health and the lining of your gut. Then you want to make sure you're getting enough fiber. I can't tell you how important it is to get that fiber into your system. So, kind of recapping back to a low carb diet, if you are doing a low carb diet, you can still eat fiber because that is going to bring down your net carbs. So just keep on focusing on increasing the amount of fiber that you take in daily. Optimally for women in perimenopause, it is 45 grams. And that is very difficult to get. So often people will supplement with some kind of fiber supplement, and they come in all forms: gummies, powders that you could add to water, etc. I highly recommend that and aiming for that 45 grams.
Oh, interesting. Okay, that's it. I'm glad I re-asked you that question because that's important.
It is important, and that is what is going to feed that's the prebiotic. That is what's going to feed the good bacteria in your gut. So that's why I wanted to make sure that I circled back to that. And then, of course, the probiotics, where you can find, in a lot of dairy products like Greek yogurt, kefir, etc. But if you're vegan, there are plenty of, yogurts made out of coconut. So cocoa, I'm forgetting the name now, but there's a lot of vegan probiotic yogurts now as well. In addition to
Yes.
that, you can do kimchi. You can mix that in to any salad or just have it plain on the side. There's kombucha. There are things like tempeh. In addition to that, there are plenty of foods that you can get in and just add it to your salad or whatever meal that you're already having.
And then, of course, I do have two other points I want to make, but
Sure.
they can also obviously make an appointment with you where you can really individualize and personalize their weight loss, their just overall feeling better plan for them at Be Vital Wellness.
Yes, absolutely. We have a lot of fun doing what we do there and interviewing each person and really finding out what is going on with them and what's going on with their health and where they might be lacking. And then, questionnaires and testing can come from there to give us a little bit more guidance so that we can tailor it directly to the patient.
Does it require a true commitment on the patient client's end for this to be successful?
Absolutely. When people are ready and they really want to do it, they are willing to commit to a program. And it does take some effort and commitment. And that's a commitment of time and energy for sure. And like I said earlier, a little bit of patience. But once that is done, they won't look back.
Oh, wonderful. All right, there was two other points I wanted to make and then we'll wrap up. So, something like the carnivore diet, which is very popular right now, I would assume I know someone on the carnivore diet and they do not advocate the fiber, which I vehemently oppose. I agree with you. You definitely need the fiber in your diet. What are your thoughts on that? What if someone comes into the clinic and they're on that type of diet and they've had some success? Just quickly, what your thoughts are on that?
That's a great question. We really try to meet people where they are. So if they are feeling really good on a carnivore diet, we don't try to sway them if they're not symptomatic. If they're feeling good and they're sleeping, they're doing all the things. Their lifestyle is, they're active, they're sleeping well, their cognition is good. We will make some suggestions through usually supplementation if they're not willing to change what they're eating.
Oh,
We
okay.
may, yeah, we may be able to get them to have their fiber via a supplement. And often people will do that rather than adding in a great deal of, fibrous foods.
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, getting back, the fad diet, or just the restriction diet, as I call them. So if it's working, you don't if it's not broken, you don't fix it, but you might offer some suggestions to kind of well balance the whole thing out so they can optimize the results on that diet, if I heard you correctly.
That's right. And that's the goal, is to optimize your overall health and optimize what you're already doing and find and try to, discover other things that could be helpful, but we don't force it if someone is committed to that diet. But we will certainly do a lot of inquiry to make sure that does fit for them. Some people are doing it for the wrong reasons, so we want to make sure that that's not the case.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, Stephanie, we're going to wrap it for now. I really
Sure.
appreciate you coming on. Can you tell everyone how to get a hold of you?
Yes. If you're interested in learning more, you can contact us through our website, bevitalwellness.com. Our phone, or you can give us a call. Our phone number is 413-387-0219, or you can email us at hadley@bevitalwellness.com.
Wonderful. So if you are listening and you are ready to finally take control of your health, your weight, your overall feeling of wellness, Stephanie, I can't recommend her highly enough. She's been wonderful. I am so grateful our paths have crossed. I really believe in what she's doing. And I
Likewise.
highly, highly recommend you give her a call, stop in for a consultation, and figure out how you can feel better in 2026. Until our next podcast, tune in. Please make it a great week.
Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you.